Immigration is poised to remain a central issue for the 2020 campaign. But a new article in The Atlantic argues lawmakers aren't doing enough to address the debate. David Frum says we need to make hard decisions now about what will truly benefit current and future Americans, adding immigration on a very large scale is politically stressful, yet acknowledging that fact can be hazardous to mainstream politicians. And David Frum joins me now from our Washington bureau. He's also the author of Trumpocracy, the Corruption of the American Republic. David, thanks so much for joining us. A really thought-provoking piece. The title of your piece is If Liberals Won't Enforce Borders, Fascists Will. First of all, what do you mean by that?
We're living in an era of rising authoritarian populism. That's the polite term, but a new kind of fascism. I've been covering the story in this country and in Europe for a long time, and thank you for alluding to the book Trumpocracy, which describes this, the breakdown in democratic societies in Europe and here. The spark for a lot of that breakdown has been immigration surges, and we see that very much in Europe. About 40 million people have moved from the global south to the global north since 1995, and that has been an extraordinarily stressful experience for the countries of the north. It's changed them, radicalized them. This is the week of Brexit. It's also a week where the United States is governed by President Trump.
And you write, in fact, quote, the political rise of Donald Trump has radicalized many of his opponents on immigration. And yet at the same time, in this piece, which is very lengthy, I recommend, though, people go out and read it if you're interested at all in this issue, because you take a look at a lot of these issues in a different kind of framework, not just an economic argument, but a social and political context as well. But you say this, the Trump-era debate about a wall misses the point, because you say the planet of tomorrow will be better educated, more mobile, more networked. How has this debate over immigration evolved in recent years, David?
Well, as Donald Trump has stepped forward and has said all the things he said and has proposed this wall idea, his Democratic opponents have been driven to say, well, whatever Donald Trump says, we must say exactly the opposite and say it as loudly and emphatically as possible. And so Democrats and liberals have been driven to a position of counter extremism to President Trump, where they are as adamant against any restrictions or against enforcing any restrictions as he is in favor of them. The wall is useless because of the airplane. At this point, the majority of people who are illegally present in the United States have arrived by overstaying their visas. They come by plane, they come on a legal visa, and then they don't go home. They break the law. But the wall doesn't deal with any of that. Nor will the wall deal with these Central American migrants, 76,000 of whom came in February, because they are staking a claim that, I think wrongly, but is allowed by American law. They are arriving in a way that where what they're using is the American legal system. They're not just walking across the border and disappearing. They're walking across the border, presenting themselves, and then entering the American judicial system.
And so you also say this about the level of immigration, quote, fewer but higher earning immigrants would contribute more to Medicare and Social Security, while requiring less assistance from state social welfare programs. Can you just elaborate? Why do you think that reducing legal immigration, that's what you're talking about here, right, David, is the best path forward?
Well, there's a lot of argument about the economic costs and benefits of immigration, but what most economists would agree is that the benefits, while real, are small. But meanwhile, on the fiscal side of the ledger, taxes, the costs of immigration, especially to state government, are very high, because the particular immigrants that American law favors, both legal and illegal, tend to arrive quite poor and stay quite poor. And so they need Medicaid, they need food stamps, they need Section 8 housing. And even if the parents are here illegally, the children are often American citizens and so are entitled to use those programs. So you're looking at thousands of dollars per illegal immigrant in the state of California, as much as $5,000 per illegal immigrant per immigrant in the state of Minnesota. So what I'm arguing is, if you had immigrants who are net taxpayers, they would actually contribute to strengthening American social programs. As it is, they're a huge fiscal drain.
And you are very open about the fact that you yourself are an immigrant. You write that in the piece. That some, of course, have criticized your view. Noah Smith of Bloomberg tweeted, quote, I am very annoyed by Canadian and British immigrants like Andrew Sullivan and David Frum writing that they are the good kind of immigrants and that immigrants from countries in Asia and Africa must be kept out to preserve, quote unquote, cultural cohesion. What is your response to that?
Well, two things. One, the problem with Twitter is people don't feel obliged to read the article before they talk about it. So one of the things the article says quite explicitly that one of the regions that will be the biggest winners under the kind of reform I'm talking about are precisely West Africa and India, from which we get our most highly educated immigrants. You will probably get many fewer from the Philippines and many fewer from Central and South America, more from India and West Africa. Second, if I were a farmer and I came on the air and said, we need to cut farm subsidies, no one would say you're betraying your fellow farmers. It is precisely immigrants like myself who think most about this issue. And I think we're, in a way, making an argument against interest, that we are the ones who are saying this is a subject we've had to wrestle with. And I am here, and I think there's implicit in that criticism is this argument that an immigrant owes loyalty to future immigrants. I think immigrants owe loyalty to their fellow Americans.
We only have about a minute or so left, David, but what do you think are some of the biggest misperceptions about the impact of immigration on the United States?
Well, I think that the president is wrong that immigration contributes to crime. I think there's a lot of evidence that immigration actually makes us safer. But what it does do is it makes the society more hierarchical. It creates a huge number, tens of millions of people who are not able to complain if they're abused by an employer, not able to complain if they are abused by a partner or spouse. It creates a society that is less socially equal, even if it makes the economy a little bit bigger.
All right, David Frum in Washington for us. David, thanks very much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.